stories. I've heard a lot of stories from players saying, a Yogg-Saron happened and I couldn't do anything.
And that's the new excuse, right?
Yeah, I guess.
You know what? I was winning. I was like 3-0ing him every single time, but 3 times Yogg happened. Yeah. Oh, done. Anyway, take it away, guys. This is the Orange versus Ersee. 4-1 results for both of them, and keen on taking the 5th win.
Thank you so much, Lothar. All right, so the first game we're going to see is Warrior versus Warlock. And Reno.
Yep, looking like a Reno variant from Ersee, and does have that early Doomsayer, which is just nuts for Reno Lock. Reno Lock that draws that one of Doomsayer early just ups their win rate so significantly, and on top of that has the natural curve into Imp Gang boss as well, because this is not always a matchup where you want to go down the tap Twilight Drake route, because you can just get tempoed out too effectively if they've drawn an early execute. So being able to shut them down early with Doomsayer is a very big deal here, but we might see Ersee wait to at least try and pick up maybe 1 minion's worth of value off the Doomsayer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, if you know you're playing versus Temple Warrior, and you probably seen Orange a bit, like you scouted him a bit, so maybe you should know what this is. You might actually decide if you want to go for the Doomsayer here or not. If you will be able to play Imp Gang boss in tempo, but what is your follow-up? Right now, he got the Dark Peddler. So it's something that he can play after Doomsayer, but this is a definitely interesting decision.
Yeah, so the problem is now, since the turn 2 from Orange was just War Axe, suddenly if your opponent develops a 3-drop here, then you're already under threat of just losing your Doomsayer. It would only be something as simple as a Ravaging Ghoul or a Blood to Ichor, and then suddenly your Doomsayer goes bye-bye. On top of that, you'd be playing it on curve for Korkron Elite, which is a threat. So I think maybe if he's going to get use out of it, he's going to play it right now. Otherwise, he'll be holding onto it for a later game turn, maybe, drop AoE and then Doomsayer straight afterwards.
I wouldn't hate it, especially if you know that Orange is playing a tempo deck. You might go for it because there are so many free drops.
They have a lot of threes, yeah.
Definitely. But this matchup overall, I think that Warlock has an advantage. And an advantage is in a way that Warrior, like most of the Reno Warlock versus Tempo Warrior games I've seen, they go to almost fatigue. And Warrior has a problem because he can only deal 13 damage max with the Fire War Axe and Grommash and Rage. There is no inner Rage. So Warlock just does everything he can to stay at 15 and continue pressuring Warrior.
Right.
So at some point, if Warrior doesn't have a big Battle Rage, he just runs out of cards, runs out of threats.
Oh yeah, Battle Rage is vital in this matchup, as it is in most matchups. Tempo Warrior, sometimes even more than Patron Warrior used to, is a deck that kind of lives or dies by its Battle Rage. But more so than that, this matchup's also kind of about the dance against the potential AoEs from the Reno Lock, because especially if you're running Varian, it becomes a game of get your opponent to Twisting Nether, and then you jam Varian afterwards. Some lists these days are running a bit quicker and don't play the Varian, in which case they have to focus a little bit more on just tempoing out as hard as they can early on.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at the hands, there was nothing really impressive from Orange, but he does have the Korkron lead, so he has some follow-up, but he doesn't have the Battle Rage yet. So he needs to pick up some more beef, some more minions that he will be able to play and follow up after the Korkron lead. What about Ersee? Do you like his hand?
I mean, I like the look of it as he drew it off the mulligan. It just happens that the way it interacted with just the fiery War Axe load up from Orange just didn't really pay off that well. If you'd had like an Armorsmith start, then that would have been a lot more effective with the Doomsayer curve. And now he's kind of trying to fish for when that Doomsayer is going to get usage. As I said, it might just end up being a play after AoE at this point. So after you clear your board, you play Doomsayer to lock out a turn, and then maybe get an empty board Emperor or an empty board Reno the turn afterwards, something like that.
Yeah, that's one of the most popular plays as well, especially after, let's say, Twisting Nether on turn 10, just through the board. But Run didn't do much.
It did not. That's always the fear of a 2-4 on curve in this matchup. It's one of the things you learn very quickly about the mirror matchup as well, is don't just drop a 2-4 Frothing Berserker on turn 3, because they immediately farm it with the Korkron straight afterwards. And that exact scenario happened, but I understand the gamble from Ersee. He had that doubled up Peddler follow-up for potential. Is still able to pick up the Mortal Coil and answer this 4-1 on the board, but not developing a board here, immediately ceding the tempo back to the Warrior, because the War Axe contests the 2-2, and he has the Frothing Berserker to develop with it.
Yeah, also buff the Frothing Berserker, so it's actually avoiding the Kodo that's in Ersee's hand, so it will not die, it will not get destroyed. Yeah, Frothing Berserker is quite alright here, and Ersee will have to find an answer.
Yeah, he will. I mean, that Kodo is a card that threatens to get value at some point in this game regardless. There's a lot of potential targets for it, even aside from the blowout Bloodhoof Brave that we all know about. There's Acolytes, Armorsmiths. You know, that Kodo will get the job done at some point. It's just a shame that he couldn't tempo it out on curve right now, which, yeah, he still could do if he wanted to. But I'd be surprised to see it since it is such a high-value minion in the deck overall.
Definitely. The other choices for him is the Apothecary, not really healing, but being a minion that contests the Frothing Berserker, and obviously the Spellbreaker as well, that will be able to silence and contest it without losing it. But there are other targets, like Acolyte of Pain, for example, if you want to deny the draw, especially because you haven't seen Battle Rage from Warrior. What other targets are there that you might want to silence?
I mean, sometimes there's a can, not always, but it's a card that's pretty common in the deck, and it's a card that's very, very difficult for the Reno Lock to remove, you know, with any of their spot removal or AoE spells. So the Spellbreaker on that can often get a lot of work done, but he's going to go for the Doomsayer right now, try and get his value out of this. He's asking for 4 additional damage plus or an Execute in this situation. And having now drawn the Battle Rage, it's tempting, right?
It is. It's tempting to Whirlwind here. And he might go for it because Whirlwind normally doesn't give you that much value in this matchup, so he might as well cycle it and even Battle his own Berserker.
Yep, and he's going to have 3 mana available, so he still has options available to him like Fiery War Axe #2, like Blood to Ichor #2, like Slam, so had a lot of ways to deal with this Doomsayer without having to use his Execute here, which causes his premium removal, but unfortunately didn't hit any of them. I like the risk, though, because, you know, in the perfect world where you do tear the second Blood to Ichor out of your deck, you're in such a strong position. And in this world, like, fine, you still have a really aggressive Frothing Berserker on the board. You're down an Execute, but you're still in a pretty strong position on the board.
Definitely. Also, it hasn't been answered last turn, so you hope that maybe there's no answer, and your opponent will be forced to do an awkward Hellfire, or maybe even Siphon Soul this Berserker. Which is good for you, because you do have those high threats in your deck, like Malkorok and Ragnaros and even Grommash. But nothing like that is in the hand, so Spellbreaker is still a possibility. He might go for Thorison because now he has the Faceless, and for the full combo to work, you just need to reduce the cost of at least 1 card. Faceless, Leeroy, or PO.
Yeah, and now, Malkorok is potentially a big deal here, because otherwise his play this turn would be Frothing Berserker, Bloodhoof Brave, and probably trade his original Frothing, which would then get his second Frothing out of range of Kodo, which would leave his Bloodhoof Brave just there to get crushed by the Kodo. So Malkorok is potentially high value here, but since there's really unlikely to be a target for the weapon that comes out, getting a 5 damage weapon is exceedingly unlikely.
It's possible, though.
It's possible.
Yeah, the Eagle's Longbow, for example.
No, that's an Assassin's Blade.
It's a very good weapon.
Is a great weapon, but isn't going to get the job done right now. But still, I like this line. This is good recognition of the situation, because he can establish that there isn't spot removal in his opponent's hand from the plays that he's seen. You know, there's no Shadow Bolt. He's seen a coil used if it was off Peddler. So
no Siphon Soul as well. He hasn't seen it.
Just going for 1 powerful minion at a time right now is looking pretty solid against what he's facing from his opponent, about what Ersee's showing his range to be. So I like him developing along these lines.
Definitely. Also, Ersee doesn't have an Ooze in his hand at the moment, and Ooze is a staple in those Reno decks.
Right.
So this Assassin's Blade will be able to deal some damage. There's even no Reno, actually. So is this the time to start tapping? Because your hand doesn't look that good. Even though, well, Sylvanas would challenge his board, but do you want to challenge Malkorok? Do you have to? You're getting pretty low on health as well.
You are, and this is one of those hands from the Reno Lock that I just feel like they should draw more often and kind of don't, where they just hit all the tech cards in their deck.
Yeah.
They just, you know, he's got the Apothecary, the Spellbreaker, the Kodo. Drawing the Sylvanas this turn is, you know, a reasonably big deal, because he can get that big 6/5 off the board, which is threatening to just solo him. But again, if Orange is going to continue with this read of my stuff is not getting answered here, then it's just trade Rag all day. Like, that's the play.
Yeah, you have to go for that, because Rag will be tough to answer, especially if there is no Siphon Soul. It's possible that Big Game Hunter is being played, because some players started adding it to the Reno Lock recently.
That's fine, though. If Big Game Hunter comes down here for 5 mana, you can clear it out with your weapon perfectly fine, keep developing. So I don't think it's a big deal at all to get this Rag Big Game Hunted in this situation.
Yeah, Orange is on tempo, and it's what he wanted. This is the perfect scenario, and Ersee picks up Jiraxxus that does nothing at this point. So is this the time where you have to face this Rag and hope?
I mean, I've seen that play being made. to good effect in recent tournaments, and it's something that the Arena Locks often do these days is break up their combo, just recognizing that they're not going to progress the game to this point. And with no other answer in the hand to this Ragnaros on board, at the very, very least, he'll be expecting his opponent to maybe be able to set up a 50-50 lethal potential. So yeah, I mean, trying to faceless this Rag and get the snipe going is probably his best answer right now.
Yeah, definitely. And probably also like play another minion. He can play Apothecary to the steal 2 and have a 4/4 minion. And this is a very important moment in this game because if Ersee stabilizes at some point, he has a chance to win, and that misses.
And we do have the execute in hand. We have Gromash as well. Not quite enough ways to line it up to guarantee. You can trade the Grom into the 4/4 and then swing face, but then you have no way to activate the execute on the Rag. So you can set up that 50-50 situation, right? If you just Grom the 4/4 and then swing your weapon at face, you either kill Rag or you win the game.
I think that's definitely reasonable. And also what this does is that if this forces twisting Nether, you still have a good follow-up with the minions in your hand. So basically, you go for 50-50?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. It's one of those situations you can create with Rag where it's basically, well, I win or I win. Either I have this insane board that you have no answer to, or I just get the shot to the face straight away and you're dead. So generally, whenever you can take this line, it's correct to do so. He is going to do it. It's immediately rewarded. Orange goes up 1-0, so pretty effective start from him. And really, like, good recognition of the Tempo Warrior. You get into situations where you've lost the board and it doesn't have great board recovery. So if you're playing the more aggressive list with Reaper or Leroy, it enables you to just then go face in that situation with greater consistency. So that makes a lot of sense to me. But I like Varian as a card. It's a card that I was like hyped about when it was announced. So I'd like to see it being effective. It's just such a cool destructive effect when it pays off. It looks like we are ready to get back into the game. And that is a mysterious challenger.
Okay.
Wow, I never thought I'd be excited to see a mysterious challenger in someone's hand.
I know, right? And there's the Rallying Blade as well. But like, I have to mention that Ersee at the moment is it's round 6, right? So he's 4-1.
Yep.
So this means that maybe he didn't have to play this deck. Maybe he was just winning with Reno Rock versus everyone. But this is awesome.
Yeah.
So what changed? We don't have Avenge anymore.
Yeah, we don't have Avenge, we don't have Shredder, we don't have Belcher, we don't have Boom.
No shielded mini-bot and no Master for Battle.
Right, so the entire curve is different. You can see already, we've got Squire on 1, Flame Juggler on 2, Rallying Blade kind of filling the Muster for Battle slot. So the makeup of the deck has got weaker. Like, the power level of the deck is undeniably weaker, but then the power level of the meta is also undeniably weaker because so many of the most powerful cards were in GVG and Nax. So, like, relative to the rest of the meta, how well does Secret Paladin stand? Because a challenger that fetches 3 or 4 secrets out of your deck, even when one of them isn't Avenge, is still damn good.
Yeah, and this is something I talked about as well. So, you face a Secret Paladin on round 6 of Swiss.
Yeah.
Have you tested a lot against this deck?
Yeah, so I have played against Secret Paladin maybe 3 times on ladder.
Oh, wow, you actually faced it?
Yeah, and the first time I lost the game because I played around Avenge and then felt like an idiot for hours afterwards. So hopefully Orange doesn't make that same mistake. I'm sure he won't. He's a smart guy. But yeah, I mean, it's a deck that's been on the fringes. People are playing around with it. It's out there. It's just not really making a splash. And hello, Jambray, there is a Dragon Egg in this deck.
There is a Dragon Egg.
Yeah.
So Jambray is definitely really happy. Jambray, player at HCT who was playing an Egg Paladin. And Ragnar, so what is this deck? Like, at the moment, it doesn't look that it has a lot of synergy. There was a Divine Shield minion, and we have a Rallying Blade.
Yep.
And now there is a...
Pretty sure there's a Tyrion in the deck. That's got Divine Shield too.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But what else? What else do we have here? I would imagine Pyromancer?
Oh, for the egg? No,
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess.
it's probably just going to be like Blessing of Kings, Keeper of Alderman as the egg activators. Like Pyromancer would surprise me.
So Pyromancer, no, but with Keeper, it just changed into the free and attack.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah, it seems reasonable, right? But yeah, I mean, it's looking like a good old mishmash of cards right now. It's just cards in my collection, Paladin, right now, from what I can see.
Oh man, and he missed that juggle on the Flame Juggler, which was pretty important. He will be able to kill the monkey with the weapon, and now monkey actually threatens to kill the 2/3.
Yeah, it's just going to go ahead and swing at it anyway, just preemptive. So this means that if the monkey trades into something, then it's it's dead already. And what this means is that he's not obligated to now attack the monkey next turn. He can use this second weapon attack to hit something else relevant that comes out here, but he's going to need to pick up a little bit of mid-game gas here, or hope that he gets a good consecration turn, which is the other effect of this preemptive attack. He can potentially set up a good consecration.
So, Sato, take me through what else is in the deck. Like, we've mentioned the Keeper of Uldaman, right? Is it Divine Favor as draw potential, or do you draw with something else?
I mean, it's hard to say. With, challenges and Rag already, and you'd expect Tyrion to be in there, suddenly, is Divine Favor necessary because your curve is already quite high? So it's hard to say whether he needs a draw engine. He might just be going for what Secret Paladin evolved into near the end of the pre-standard meta, which is just I draw a good card every turn. Problem is a lot of those good cards don't exist anymore.
They're gone. Lothar, Sludge Belcher.
Right. So you have to fill the gap with something. It's going to be slightly more buff-heavy than Secret Paladin used to be. That's kind of indicated by the Dragon Egg. But right now we're just seeing fairly regular stuff. The challenges are a given once we saw the first one, and Rag is just one of the strongest cards in the game now for sure, thanks to the Big Game Hunter nerf. So
definitely.
No great surprise right now. I see. So the dilemma in the previous game, we just got word, was that Ersee queued up his warrior, which was the banned class, so has unfortunately forfeit the second game, and he's actually 2-0 down now already. So,
he has to win with Paladin.
He has to sweep with this Secret Paladin now.
It's possible.
It is.
I believe.
Yeah.
And with the Mysterious Challenger on board, he actually filters his deck as well, so he has less cards now, but a bigger chance to draw something good. So what are the secrets, though?
This will be... Yeah,
Spirit.
I imagine Spirit, Noble Sack, and Redemption. Yeah, since only 3 were pulled and there aren't any secrets in hand, he's only playing 3 secrets.
No Sacred Trial?
No Sacred Trial, no Eye for an Eye Nymph. These cards are not being played, surprisingly. But yeah, I mean, Challenger number 1 comes down. It can be followed up immediately by Challenger number 2, which will probably just pull the exact 3 same secrets again. And the Competitive Spirit is also good news for that egg that will then be active. So,
well, I think the biggest good news for Ersee is that Warrior does not run Brawl.
Yeah.
And if Ersee is on board and there's this Tyrion we've been talking about, he will have a huge advantage. Turn 7, Mysterious Challenger into turn 8 Tyrion or Ragnaros, and turn 9 Tyrion or Ragnaros.
Yep.
That's a great curve to have.
Yes, it is. So yeah, the Spirit's going to go off. Very smart play from Orange, though. Dealt with the board, recognized that the egg was about to get buffed, so dealt with it preemptively using the Ravaging Ghoul, and now the same pile of secrets will come out again.
Or not?
No, he's only playing 1 copy of each secret.
Interesting.
So that is just a 6/6 on the board, but hey, a 6/6 is pretty solid right now.
Definitely. And he has a great follow-up. So what can Orange do here? 24 points of life, and you have to deal with a 6/6 and a 7/6 at the same time. You don't have executes. You can Battle Rage, draw 2 cards.
Yeah, he almost certainly needs to hit an execute here if he's going to stay in this game. But the problem is he's going to feel obligated to execute right now, and then the hits just keep on coming from this deck. And suddenly the presence of only 3 secrets in the deck kind of makes a lot of other things make sense. We saw Argent Squire being used, not Secret Keeper, which makes sense when you're low on secrets. It also probably answers the question of whether Divine Favor's in the deck. If you're playing all these threats and only 3 secrets, you don't really need Divine Favor, so that's probably out.
You just curve out every turn.
So
and there's executes, so he can deal with the 7/6. And he actually can deal with the 6/6 as well.
I mean, he can, but it's not the prettiest thing in the world, right?
It
does involve slamming your face into it for 6, which you are going to be pretty happy to see if you're Ersee.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's a Paladin. Paladin doesn't normally have burst, and if you clear the board, your opponent only has 3 cards. So I think you can take this gamble, especially with Armor Smith on board.
Yep, I like it. So, what do we lead with here, Nimch? If you're Ersee right now, are we going Rag or are we going Tyrion?
I like Tyrion, I believe, because Ashbringer will be more consistent to deal the last 10 damage it can deal to my opponent. Ragnaros just hitting an Armor Smith would be terrible. Hitting Face doesn't win you the game yet, and hitting Bane will be probably the best.
Yeah, Ersee disagrees. You're going to see the Rag here. I like the Tyrion as well, because I think once you get that Ashbringer equipped, you have a lot of flexibility. You can either trade with the board using the Ashbringer to set up better Rag shots afterwards, or you can just start jamming Face for that 15 damage over 3 turns. So I'm with you. I would have liked to see the Tyrion come down here, but Ersee seems to disagree.
Well, we don't have that much practice with the deck.
That's very true, yeah.
So Ersee being a pilot and bringing this deck to the tournament, being at 4-1, definitely knows what's important. And there is a Ragnaros from Orange, so the same situation, Rag into Rag. What is it going to hit?
This is yet another huge throw. Goes face.
Do you set up lethal now? Can you? You can. You can go face with True Silver.
You can. This isn't quite as good as the scenario we saw Orange set up because there are 2 targets on the board. One of them isn't the Ragnaros as well, so it's not like a total win-win situation.
Tyrion and Argent Squire is probably the best because you hope you kill Ragnaros with Ragnaros, and the opposing Ragnaros will have trouble hitting one of the Divine Shields possibly.
Yeah. Also, you know, if you play the Tyrion...
Oh, he's going for lethal setup.
If you play he is actually going to go for it by the looks of things. But yeah, if you play the Tyrion Argent Squire line and the Rag hits face anyway, you're so likely to have lethal on the following turn. You've already seen 1 Armor Smith, so generally they'll only be able to armor out of range to 5. So then you can go face with the 1-1 and the weapon that you have anyway. So it seems to work out that way anyway. We do see the second Armor Smith is in hand!
Go face!
And Ersee gets paid out for taking the risk. So we've seen that situation win games for both sides now. Ragnaros picking up the victories.
Justice.
Both players played for it, though. So, you know, played for it and got from both sides. So, you know, really?
Because, you know, Cthulhu Druid have been approached from many angles before. And AK Wonder played it a lot. Like, a lot of people played it, especially at rank 20, because they got for free. But
wow,
people are still trying to find the best list, and Orange says he found it.
Confirmed. Cthulhu Druid players are rank 20. Nimsh 2016. Like, you can take that quote to the bank.
You haven't seen this complaint? Like Cthulhu Druid was non-existent for the metagame, and people went on forums and were like, Cthulhu decks are too strong.
Because it's all they play at low ranks.
Yes, because they got
it makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. I was about to make a mean joke about not having experience at rank 20 like you, Nimsh, but I thought I'd say that I wasn't going to make the joke and use that to make the joke. Does that feel better?
I am not sure if I should laugh or cry right now, but let's just focus on the match.
Seems fair.
This Paladin, Ersee has to stay with it because this is the last hero standing, and that is a good opening. Just dealing with a 3-4 and having a bunch of minions, this is what you want, because you want to curve out, right? But the double consecration is probably not be very useful in the matchup.
I mean, it's a minion-heavy deck that you're playing against, but it's not a flood deck where all the minions are going to have low health. You know, there are lots of minions that are going to come down, but they're kind of chunky mid-range things that come down one by one. So, yeah, I would suspect Consecration not to get too much work done here. Interesting to see that there is double Consecration in this list, because that's something that Secret Paladin eventually moved away from, because they were just so board dominant in the first place, they never really needed Consecrations. This list, obviously, as we mentioned, lower quality cards overall, so I can understand the need for the fallback of Consecration, especially when Consecration is a card that Zoo is now so vulnerable to overall.
Definitely. You need it for this meta game, but still, this Paladin build is really curious with the Steward, so it's like, it's not an aggro Paladin, it's like a mid-range with a mix of Mischievous Challenger and top-heavy.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm curious to see how it will work out versus the Cthulhu Druid, but Dark Arca comes down with an Innervate, and the Orange has a good curve, like he can follow up on 5 with either a Taunt or Azure Drake, or even draw the cards or give himself Mana Crystals and play the Beacon of Evil. So a lot of options for Orange. There is a Steward.
There is a Steward. He's only going to get that 1-1's worth of value from the hero power, though, and it'll, I'm sure, immediately go down. Even though there's no removal in hand, we could see a Druid of the Claw being used, or just a trade on the board. That Steward of Darkshire is high priority target number 1, because that thing gets ridiculous if you let it grow out.
Yeah, but then, like, how much are you afraid of Swipe? It seems like he is afraid, so he wants to get the value out of the small minions here. Because Swipe would be so devastating.
Yeah, absolutely would. So his Cthulhu is already a 9/9, I believe. Has he played a minion before this?
It's actually
he did,
moment,
yeah.
It's 11/11.
Right, he played the Disciple of Cthulhu already, yeah. So he does have the 4/10 active. Still looks like Druid of the Claw or Azure Drake is the natural play here, and then he can go into Beckoner plus Klaxi on a following turn, or Klaxi plus Hero Power could end up being a relevant turn as well because of the bubbles and 1/1s that are on the board.
What about this Nourish, gain the crystals and play Beacon of Evil, or do you just draw the cards? Because like if you ramp here, you will go to 7 mana. Yeah, like he's going for that play because you have so many high quality minions in your deck that you want to play them, and especially you have some draw with Azure Drake as well.
I mean, I like this in theory because of like the general makeup of the deck, but the makeup of the hand right now, it's still only 1 card a turn, even with 8 mana. So it doesn't like speed him up that much in the short term. But definitely, of course, like this deck's all about getting to those big power plays as quick as you can, and the more mana you have, obviously, the quicker that happens. But I think the Druid of the Claw, just natural curve play, was perfectly reasonable there, because I think the last thing you want to do in this matchup is just run out of cards based on all the pressure that's going to come down. And Ersee has just drawn exactly the same hand as before. He just has Challenger, Tyrion, Rag stacked up and ready to go.
Yeah, turn 7, turn 8, turn 9, and this will be so powerful. And Orange will have to find some answers. Either have a big board by the time those cards are being dropped, or find mulch.
Yeah.
Be able to respond to what's being done. Obviously, still like searching for Cthulhu, because by the time he gets Cthulhu will be quite big. At the moment, Cthulhu is what, like 11-11, 13-13 after Beaconner, or no, it's even more. It's actually 15-15.
It's 13-13.
13-13. Yeah. So it can go to 15-15 this turn.
14. Missed one. Yeah, so it's going to go to 16 here. Gets the hero power in as well. So he has a lot of board dominance right now, but Challenger number 1, I'm sure, will come down here to start getting some value out of these secrets. This is one of the nice byproducts of only playing one copy of the secrets in your deck. There was a list that I really liked for a while. That was the Zombie Chow Outdoor Peacekeeper list that only played one copy of each of the secrets. And you just hit Challenger without drawing secrets with such consistency, because there was only 4 of them in your deck. So.
Definitely really consistent. And for Orange now, obviously a 4-6 is a possibility, but you might want to play Sylvanas on board to start stealing stuff. Unless you want to wait for Sylvanas to play her when there is a Ragnaros on board or Tyrion. But then versus Paladin, it's still a tricky card, because the 1/1s, they're always there. They're just waiting for your Sylvanas to die.
Right. I mean, you can just preempt Tyrion right now with the Sylvanas if you want to. Depends on like how you're able to deal with this board. And depending on like how you're going to trade through it, but loading up a Sylvanas that can't be dealt with on the turn before you expect someone to play Tyrion or Rag is, if anything, even more powerful than playing it in response.
Definitely. And if like looking at the hand with Tyrion and Rag in hand, it might be tough to deal with Sylvanas. You'll have to swarm the board with small dudes, and you still have a chance to lose like a 6-6.
Yeah.
Or a 6-1, 7-2 because of competitive spirit.
Yep, there you go. He is just going to go ahead and preload it. It can be dealt with on the board if he really wants to commit to one of the big 8-drop plays this turn, and I'm almost certain he does, but it also has the potential, if it steals the 7-2 instead of the 1-3 in this situation, then you're in a pretty big mess. So
a nice benefit is also that for the next turn he will have this Azure Drake and Druid of the Claw fit the curve.
Yeah.
So a really nice play there. Steward though. So we do get small minions if possible.
Yeah, and also like difficult to remove small minions because of the Divine Shield, so it becomes increasingly difficult for the Sylvanas to guarantee a high value steal, because of course there is a Dragon Egg spawn here as well that will gain Divine Shield as soon as it comes out.
Yeah.
So the Sylvanas is reducing in value overall here unless a swipe is stolen. He's going to go ahead and deal with it on his terms. Hope that one of the small minions goes. And the 7-2, of course, with 100% consistency, the 7-2 is the card that you lose.
It doesn't change that much, because 7-2 is still going to die easily to the board, and it can be reduced by Outdoor Peacekeeper, but obviously you would probably want to keep the 7-2 instead of... Well, actually, it's probably better that he lost 7-2 than a Steward, because Steward will give him some value.
Yeah. I totally agree, but yeah, one of the smallest minions would have been the best outcome, of course. And I like the decision to outdoor the 4-8 instead of the 7-2. You're not under threat from just dying from damage right now. So a 7-2 on this board is kind of useless in terms of trading. It just kind of trades with one of these mediocre minions. So
we'll have to trade it to Steward,
right,
because the 1/1s with Divine Shields are resistant to swipe, so it'll be difficult for Orange to deal with that.
So the big long-term threat on this board is that 4-8, so I like that his choice of what to neutralize there, just getting rid of the more long-term threat. And now Orange has a pretty difficult board state to deal with, as is quite often created when a Steward of Darkshire goes off like that.
Yeah, you probably have to go for the draw first. Like the Sample of Cthulhu is a possibility to just deal 2 damage to one of the 3/3s and then finish it off with a 1-8.
Yeah.
But you need something more. Like you need to get the Cthulhu as fast as possible. So it seems like he's not going for Azure Drake, but Druid of the Claw instead, because he'll play it first.
Yeah, curious in the sequencing here. So does he just end up jamming face with the 7-2 here? Yeah, looks like he's going to try and protect his 7-2. He's already seen 1 consecration, so this play makes sense. And honestly, the makeup of Ersee's hand up until the draw of exactly True Silver Champion, he doesn't really want to be consecrating on this turn anyway. He wants to play an 8-drop really, really badly.
Yeah.
But that true silver that he drew made the consecrate pretty glorious.
Oh man, I said like double consecration is probably bad in this matchup, but Ersee was able to get so much value out of both of them, and just like playing them on the key turns. Like when you want to play, let's say turn 6, when he wanted to play Mr. Challenger, who was able to play consecration and deal with the board, and now he's dealing with the board again. So a really good position. Cthulhu can change things still, but
They can.
that Tyrion and Ragnaros.
Yeah, still yet to see a Keeper of Alderman get drawn from Ersee, I believe. So, you know, no confirmation at least that it's in the deck, but it seems like a card you would want in this deck. Like, just based on the state of the board right now,
Yeah,
feels like
definitely.
Keeper is a card you'd like to have every now and again. So he could have used some of his own life there to trade at the cost of one of his tokens on the board. Either a Divine Shield or the intact Dragon Egg, but he chose to take the lesser damage here and just maintain his board. And I guess this isn't the worst thing in the world because he knows, based on the play so far, that there's no swipe in hand. But Grand Drake is not a bad combination when you are out
two
of cards.
and there is a swipe, and there is even a Wrath to draw a card. So slowly but steadily, Orange is trying to dig into the Cthulhu and call it. And when Cthulhu drops on the board, it will be amazing for Orange overall. But
It will, but he's going to have to find some answers to some
something.
big threats very, very soon. He's going to need his mulches. He's going to need to randomly find a Black Knight and a Big Game Hunter in his deck somewhere. But that Azure Drake's going to go down, so he's not going to get any usage out of the spell damage. There's the first Kings that we see get drawn, but surely this is not enough to prevent you from playing one of these 2 8-drops that we've had since turn 8 in our hand. They have to come down.
He's just patient, you know. But
Yeah.
I think this might be the time for Ragnaros. You attack into the 4, into Bran, because you don't want to get Cthulhu on the top of Bran, dealing 30
Very
damage.
true. Yeah, very true.
So definitely you have to deal with the Bran and then just drop. Oh, he's going for Tyrion at the end. All right, Tyrion's fine as well.
Suddenly, Swipe and Wrath is not too bad in conjunction here.
Definitely, you can just attack with the hero power, Wrath for 1.
Yeah, it does involve taking a lot of damage, though, right? You take another 6 immediately. You're staring at an Ashbringer coming out on the flip side.
But then you clear a board, more or less, and you have a taunt.
Yeah, you don't have a taunt immediately, though, so that Ashbringer can connect with your face if it really, really wants to. And again, we might come down to that sort of Ragnaros situation where it's trying to set up that lethal push.
Oh man, this game is tricky. I guess you can draw the card first because you still deal like 1 damage with the Shapeshift. So it doesn't matter if you Wrath now or after the Divine Shield is gone.
Yep. Makes sense. Might as well draw first. Picks up the Rag. I mean, that would be ambitious. That would be the Dreamer's play, is just drop the Rag, snipe the 6/6 easy game. But
with so many targets.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we've seen True Silver. But then Ashbringer is the problem, for sure. How do you deal with Ashbringer with this deck? I guess like you just play a taunt every turn. You start with Grid of the Claw and the Dark Arakoa, and maybe Cthulhu for the win?
yeah, but this is going to come down to how we've basically seen every game up until this point. This is going to be an Ashbringer connecting with the face, a Ragnaros drop to the board, and it's either going to take out the Drake or it's going to go face and win the game.
So you win or you win.
Right, but in this situation, the good news for Orange is that if the Rag does hit the minion here, he does at least have a shot of clearing the Rag with his own Rag.
Yeah, but... Yeah, you're right. And
Nope.
that's it.
Never mind.
So Ersee, 2-0 with that Paladin, even though he actually DM'd Orange with queuing a banned deck and just losing the Warrior. It comes down
Standard
to...
days. You know, the Secret Paladin players thought they were favored. The Zoo players thought they were favored. Different matchup decisions made a big impact. But when the Secret Paladins really started cutting Consecration, that's when it started to become a bit messy for them overall.
Yeah, so that's the key card. Basically just Consecration. Double Consecration for Ersee. If he gets them the key at the key point of the game, he will be able to turn around the series. But overall, I would give advantage to Orange here.
Yeah, and this double Voidwalker start is pretty special here from Orange. Ersee has the tools to deal with the first Voidwalker, no problem, with the Abusive Sergeant. The problem is the board he then leaves behind against the second Voidwalker is a 1-1 and a 2-1, so this board probably ends up getting traded down, 2 for 2 in the end, more or less. So fairly even early exchange, but Rallying Blade's a nice pickup.
It's a really great card, and I've been talking about this card with Noxious a bit at DreamHack Austin. The Paladin should play it even in the Zolf Paladin because it just counters So many things in such a great way. Also, if you have like a 1/1 from turn 2, you can deal 4 damage on that turn. Just like attack with the 1/1 and use the weapon. So Rallying Blade is great, and not to mention that it actually buffs the Divine Shield minions, and you have a lot of them in this game.
Yeah, especially if you get the Steward Darkshire rolling. But yeah, Rallying Blade is a card that I ran in N'Zoth Paladin for a while when I was playing kind of a different list from what I eventually settled on. Because like if you're playing Keeper of Alderman in the deck, I think it gets a lot better as well because you get that natural curve where like you kill an early game threat with the 3/2 weapon, and then on turn 4 they play something too big for you to interact with, but you just Keeper it and then use your second charge. So that curve is really, really powerful if you can get it going, but Keeper is another card that's kind of rotated out of N'Zoth Paladin a little bit. As
that has changed. It evolved a bit. Yeah. But, hey, weapons are good versus Zoo.
They sure are. And turns out 3-mana Fiery War Axe is still a pretty good card. Orange is going to load up some reasonably resistant minions here. He kind of expects his Direwolf to go down. I mean, he's pretty much guaranteed to that Rallying Blade. And now the Consecration is picked up. I'm sure we'll see a little bit more greed coming out of Ersee here. There's plays here. You can choose not to attack with your Rallying Blade, which sets off alarm bells for your opponent, but it means you can engineer that Consecration to be effective against, say, a Darkshire Councilman that comes down.
Yeah, I think like you just keep Consecration for just Forbidden Ritual, right? Because like Zoo can just play all the cards in the hand, and at some point Zoo will not be able to play around Consecration because you just have to have a board. This deck has Mysterious Challengers, Ragnaros, Tyrion. Those big threats are coming, and they are like they are in the hand again for Ersee.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't flood a Zoo in this matchup, I mean, you're just going to get punished by the high-value single threats. You're not going to have the power to bust through the Challenger turn. You're not going to have the power to bust through Tyrion. So you are forced to flood, essentially, and that kind of plays straight into the Consecration that Ersee has now drawn. You identified it was going to be the key card in the matchup, and of course, Ersee is fortunate enough to pick it up here. Gormok not going to get any work done here, and Orange seems to disagree a little bit here. He is slow-playing to an extent.
Yeah, but like he definitely needs the board because if he has the board before the big threat comes, he will be able to buff his stuff, like use even the Gormok, right, to like deal 4 damage. But yeah, Ragnaros comes down. Maybe he's playing the twos, like 2 Ragnaros, 2 Tyrion. Wait.
I mean, with the consistency that this trio of cards in hand is being drawn, it feels like there are 3 ofs in the deck, let alone 2 ofs.
It's the most consistent deck we've seen today.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's drawing a consistent curve. It's just a shame that the curve seems to start at 6 for him right now, because I don't know what his mid-game is. I don't know what's supposed to get him from, turn 2 through to turn 5. He doesn't seem to have been drawing much of that. It's just been True Silvers and Consecrations and removal plays. Yeah.
It's a weird thing. And every game it was different, so it's really hard to say what's going on there. But yeah, 3 secrets, and he will have some plays in turn 7 as well. The egg is not great, but he will be able maybe to pick up something. But still, a 6/6 and no secrets. What do you do?
Yeah, 6/6 that's going to very rapidly become a 7/7, but the value of the Noble Sack and the redeemed Noble Sack isn't really going to be too effective here. Has a good chance of just being sniped down by knives after he makes whatever trade he wants to make here. So, again, the Zoo has managed to flood wide in this situation. He's managed to survive the Consecration, essentially, and still have a strong board to show for it. So he's put himself in a comfortable position here.
1-drop is pretty good as well.
Yeah, the 1-drop is pretty strong in this situation, but this 6/6 is ignorable at this point because he isn't low enough on health to be threatened by going face just yet. And, you don't want to give that 6/6 Wind Fury, essentially, by trading a bunch of your minions into it. So you might as well just let it do its slow thing of chewing through one of your minions each turn.
Also, this preserves the board a bit, so he will have a better chance to actually activate Gormok on the next turn.
Yeah.
And he's seen Consecration as well. So he needs to hit it with the knife. He missed it. He had that 1/1 save for that specifically. And now turn 7. So only an egg. What do you get? What can you really play here? And True Silver Champion appears to be a good card.
Yeah, True Silver seems solid. Fits the curve pretty nicely here. Dragon Egg, True Silver Champion, and Hero Power means that he's starting to build a board that can test this. Takes out the Councilman. And being able to take 2 minions off this board means it's starting to get difficult for the Gormok to be activated, but since one of his minions is that Imp Gang boss, he's actually in a decent spot still to be able to do it as long as he draws, more or less any cheap minion, which, believe it or not, Nim, Zoo plays a lot of cheap minions.
Yeah, it does play a lot of cheap minions, but you know, I'm just looking at his board and seeing a 7/5 a weapon and then like double 8 drop in Ersee's hand, and it looks really good for Ersee. It seems like Orange might have trouble. Like I don't know exactly which version of Zoo is he playing. It might be Leroy, it might be the Doomguard version, but both versions in this spot would probably struggle.
Yeah, the only slightly indicative thing I'd say I've seen so far is that Gormok. You know, situational cards like Gormok are less common in the Doomguard version because you don't want cards to sit in your hand and then get discarded. So generally that Gormok becomes a second or first Dark Iron Dwarf in the Doomguard list. So I would, you know, put a little bit of money on Leroy, but not much.
I would agree with you, definitely.
Taps, picks up the Peddler. Would have loved to get a 1-drop there, because that would have still let him go off with the Gormok.
Goldshire Footman, well, it does block a 7/5 or a weapon attack, so, you know, it can do some work here.
Yeah.
And I guess you try to kill Paladin before he kills you, in a way? Or is he just going to start trading?
Interesting.
I would kill the 1/1 with the 2/4 and go 3 damage to face and play the Goldshire Footman, definitely. So,
yeah, I like this.
So you hope like your opponent will start trading into your board. You've seen Consecration, and you hope he does have a couple of blanks in hand.
Yep, and finally there is the Keeper of Alderman that was almost certainly going to be in the deck, but we won't be seeing it for some time yet because Big Daddy Tyrion has been drawn, and now there is a choice of trades on the board. I'm sure the... oh no, he's going to do it the other way around. He's going to attack the Challenger into the 1/2
you can
and
also
use more of his health.
You can also go face here. Just
could.
like 7 damage to face, put your opponent at 12, and then have a... Like, make your opponent trade with Tyrion. Because what can Zoo really deal with, do with Tyrion? It's mostly like just using the PO to be able to kill it. But then, like, it's damage that's not going to your face. It's damage that goes to the minion.
All right, so Dark Peddler is picked up. That is a cheap enough minion that his Gormok is naturally live. Even if he'd had a really unfortunate whiff there, he could have bodged a Gormok play with the Power Overwhelming on the Imp Gang boss.
Yeah, the Gormok will head the 7/4 pretty nicely.
So yeah, that 7/4 is resting in pieces right now. But Possessed Villager, Argent Squire, the eternal debate. Which card is better? Orange favors the Villager.
Villager is probably better because it works with Darkshire Councilman. It's like more or less the same effect.
Right. So Villager is better with Councilman, but Squire is better with Argus. But then there's also Knife Juggler, which kind of breaks the tie, where Villager is better with a Knife Juggler as well. So yeah, Villager kind of comes out a little bit ahead if you like do all the synergies. So. And he does, in the end, go for that Power Overwhelming play on the Imgang boss that I was talking about to kind of bodge the Gormok out a little bit, get that extra 1/1 generated.
And that's a pretty good board for Zoo, suddenly. He was able to deal with those 2 big minions. That's why I like kind of going for face. 7 damage to face, and then you only have to, you know, attack face a couple of less times than before with the weapon. And now you cannot race with this. Like, you have to... Can you race with this? How much damage?
I proposed the alternate question, which is, can you win by trading?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And I guess with Keeper of Alderman on Dragon Egg, the answer to that is yes, maybe. I mean, Alderman on Dragon Egg kind of does a lot of work here.
You've seen 1 PO already,
right?
So and Zoo doesn't have the cards in hand, so next turn it will only have 2 after lifetime, so it deals damage, and you might actually start. Ooh. That's all right. I mean, it's not Leroy yet, but you can at least cycle it and kill the 2/1 board. Yeah,
I mean, Mortal Coil is going to be a pretty effective card against this deck in general. Picks up a Direwolf, so that is 6 damage, meaning a famous 4 damage card, Power Overwhelming, or Soulfire, if that's in the deck, would have been lethal here. Doesn't get it, though. So we're going to have to play the board game again, I think.
Do you play both? Like yeah, I think you do. Just to have more minions on board, and you play... Like, Consecration obviously damages you, but on the other hand, like, if you have a full board, maybe you will be able to deal that damage.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I think based on the pressure and the board states that Ersee's been facing down, if second Consecration had been drawn, you know, any time before maybe last turn, then it probably would have been used. So... If you're crediting your opponent on Consecration, it's probably been drawn on the turn previous to this one or exactly this turn. So I don't mind going for the huge board here because it does pretty much represent a lethal setup as well.
You've seen Tyrion, you've seen Consecration.
Right.
So you want to have enough pressure that your opponent will not be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And, all right, limiting pressure. I mean, he still has pressure on board. and he counters Ragnaros for this. There is Leroy.
Whoa!
What? I would definitely go for phase earlier.
Wow, that Leroy changes the dynamic of this game completely. And yeah, suddenly I'm kind of on your side here, Nimsh. The face plan with dropping Ragnaros on the previous turn started to look a little bit more appealing, but then that Direwolf would have made a much bigger mess than it would have done this way if he hadn't have started trading down some of that board. So let's not have too much caster 2020 hindsight in this position, but Leroy, of course, only one card in the deck as well. Most of the deck that we've seen so far is, board focus, trade focus, leverage your minions.
It's still
that
a very interesting card choice. And
it is.
Now Ragnaros, well, the best hit is probably face.
Yeah.
But if it hits the 2/1 minion, it might work as well. Okay, so we have a couple of cards to win here. This is a blank.
Also, if he taps, he is dead to the hand.
To Leroy, yeah.
So if he taps, doesn't pick up lethal or a taunt,
Defender
then he
of
is dead.
Abusive is not lethal. It's
Nope.
3/5 +2, and that will be it.
The Secret Paladin, the new era Secret Paladin, has come back to sweep this series. Ersee, head in his hands right now. He's just saying, please don't be dead. He probably established that he's not dead already unless Orange is massively BMing, so he's just praying, no Voidwalker, no Argus, please don't give me a taunt.
So, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And Ersee, from the final of DreamHack Winter, he comes back with a 4-1 score, and he on stream wins with a deck that we haven't seen before on stream.
Yeah.
We haven't even predicted that it exists in the metagame. He does 3-0 Orange and moves to the 5-1 score. And Orange will be surprised to see the leader Jenkins
Gets the abusive for good measure. That look on Orange's face.
What is this card?
The eye roll comes out. Leroy Jenkins is going to go face. Secret Paladin, ladies and gentlemen, is back. Hide. Don't play ladder. It's not worth it. Just hide. Wait for this to blow over. Come back when it's just full of Shaman again. I'm sure that's much better.
And now Orange